situation at Stellantis is, I think the technical term, a mess.
Stellantis just did the unthinkable. Axed jobs at Dodge, Jeep, Ram, and Chrysler, and it's causing chaos. Workers are gone, dealerships are crumbling, and customers are walking away. The question now is whether there's one last trick left to save these brands, or if this is the beginning of the end. Price hikes and missteps Stellantis is basically sitting on mountains of unsold cars. We're talking about over 1 million vehicles just gathering dust. How did it get to this point? They ramped up production during the pandemic, trying to get ahead of supply chain issues. But here's the real kicker. Stellantis could be on the brink of a drastic, game-changing move. One that might just send shockwaves through the entire auto industry. It's not just production mess-ups.
And news just out, Stellantis is laying off almost 2,500 factory workers from an assembly plant outside of Detroit.
The leadership, yes, I'm looking at you, CEO Carlos Tavares, has made some spectacularly bad calls. The guy's playing short-term wins at the cost of long-term survival. Sure, maybe they pocketed some quick cash, but now dealerships are stuck with cars nobody wants and empty showrooms where sales should be happening. Tavares' whole cut marketing, cut costs strategy might look good on an earnings report, but it's killing brand loyalty. Customers are moving on. They're buying cars that actually excite them, not the stuff Stellantis is trying to offload. Stellantis decided to kill off their beloved V8s and replace them with newfangled Hurricane turbo engines. Supposedly, these things are better for fuel economy and have lower emissions. Sounds great on paper, right? Wrong. Longtime fans are not happy. People who love Dodge or Ram, they love muscle, they love power. They want a V8, not some efficiency-driven six-cylinder that doesn't roar the same way. When you think Dodge or Ram, you think muscle and power. You don't think eco-friendly. Stellantis is completely missing their core audience here, and it's backfiring. Another colossal fail? The incentives, or rather, the lack of them.
Assembly plants are facing unemployment and layoffs once again, with a production shutdown that's been going on for weeks.
While other car companies are rolling out attractive deals to get customers into new vehicles, this company's doing nothing. No major discounts, no enticing financing offers. They're just standing still while competitors run circles around them. It's left their dealerships high and dry, drowning in inventory they can't move. And about those prices, the response to falling sales has been to raise them. Because nothing says, please, buy our car, like making it more expensive when interest is already low. Take Jeep, for example. Prices have gone up, but sales are way down, with a 9% drop. Ram isn't faring much better, suffering a 20% decline. The assumption seems to be that higher prices will offset fewer sales, but it's driving customers away. People just don't want to pay premium prices for vehicles that feel outdated. Let's break it down by brand, because each is facing its own crisis. Chrysler is barely hanging on with only 2 models, the Pacifica minivan and the aging Chrysler 300 sedan. Just 2 models. Meanwhile, competitors are packed with SUVs, crossovers, electric options. A real lineup with variety. Chrysler, by comparison, feels stagnant. While there's talk of a possible revival, action seems lacking. If things don't change soon, Chrysler might just disappear. Then there's Ram. Remember the 1500 Classic? Well, they axed that. Bye-bye to the affordable option. Now, if you want a new Ram, you're looking at over 40 grand for the base model. And those fancy new engines and tech upgrades? They're nice, but they're also hiking the price up. Ram's higher-end trucks are creeping up towards $100,000. It's no wonder buyers are turning to competitors like Ford, who still got budget-friendly options, instead. Jeep's in trouble too. Prices for new Wranglers are out of control. Some models are pushing $100,000. For a Jeep, buyers are balking, and honestly, who can blame them? With these ridiculous price tags, People are opting for used Jeeps instead. Or worse, they're just jumping ship to another brand entirely. The used car market is booming while Jeep struggles to keep new models moving. And Dodge? Oh boy, Dodge. The Dodge Hornet is a flop. They've got over 500 days worth of Hornets just rotting away on dealership lots. It's no secret why. The compact SUV market is packed with better options, and consumers just aren't interested in what Dodge is selling. On top of that, Dodge's move to electrify their classic muscle cars, like the Charger and Challenger, is getting mixed reviews, to say the least. People who love those cars want that raw, gas-guzzling power, not some battery-powered replacement. It's like they're trying to reinvent the wheel when no one asked for it. The push for electrification across these brands is another major point of contention. There's no denying that electric vehicles, EVs, are the future, but the timing and execution here have been less than stellar. While competitors like Ford and General Motors have invested heavily in creating EVs that not only perform well, but also excite customers, this company feels like it's playing catch-up with a product line that's half-baked. They've been hyping up EV plans without actually delivering compelling electric models to dealerships. Consumers want options, and they want them now, not just vague promises about what might be available in the next 5 years. Look at the broader market, and it's clear Stellantis is facing an uphill battle. The competition is not only advancing technologically, but also embracing the changing market dynamics more effectively. Tesla is dominating the EV space with a mix of innovation and aggressive pricing. Even traditional rivals like Ford and GM have managed to carve out a strong niche with successful hybrid and electric models. Meanwhile, Stellantis is caught somewhere in between, trying to cling to the past while awkwardly fumbling towards the future. A good example of this is the Jeep brand's attempt at electrification. The Jeep 4xe models, plug-in hybrid versions of the Wrangler and Grand Cherokee, are supposed to represent the brand's future. However, the execution leaves a lot to be desired. These plug-in hybrids are expensive, with price tags that don't justify the limited all-electric range they offer. And while they might appeal to some off-road enthusiasts, the mass market just isn't buying it. It's another case of Stellantis trying to do too little, too late. The lack of investment in infrastructure and consumer education around EVs is another glaring oversight. While other companies are partnering to expand charging networks and actively educating buyers on the benefits of going electric, this brand seems to be neglecting these essentials. It's almost as if they expect people to buy EVs on faith, without the necessary support system. Just look at Tesla's supercharger network, and it's clear why this company is falling behind. Dealerships, meanwhile, are suffering from questionable strategies. Dealerships make money when cars move off the lot, but with the current approach, that's just not happening. Unsold inventory is piling up, and dealers are growing increasingly frustrated. They're calling for more support, better incentives, smarter marketing investments, and new models that actually attract customers. But those pleas seem to be falling on deaf ears. It's a downward spiral. As unsold inventory builds up, dealerships struggle even more, which drags down overall sales numbers even further. The real tragedy here is that these brands include some truly iconic names. Jeep, Dodge, Ram. These names have serious weight among car enthusiasts. But the failure to adapt to changing times while honoring what made these brands great in the first place is setting them up for disaster. Rather than innovating in a way that respects their legacy, the current strategy risks alienating loyal customers while failing to attract new ones. There's still time for Stellantis to turn things around, but it would require a complete overhaul of their current strategy. They need to get back to understanding who their customers are and what they want. For Dodge and Ram, that might mean bringing back the muscle and power that fans crave, even if it's in a hybrid form that can bridge the gap to a fully electric future. For Jeep, it means making off-road vehicles that are not only capable, but also reasonably priced. And for Chrysler, well, it's time to decide whether the brand even has a future. 2 outdated models just aren't going to cut it in a market flooded with options. More than anything, Stellantis needs leadership that can look beyond the next quarterly earnings report. Cutting costs and raising prices might offer a short-term boost, but it's killing their brands in the long run. Customers have more choices than ever before, and they're not going to stick around for a company that isn't offering them something exciting, affordable, and reliable. This company needs to play the long game, investing in technology, brand strength, and customer loyalty, or risk being left behind as the industry moves forward. Can Stellantis revive this iconic brand? It seems Stellantis is in for a bit of a storm, one that they're not quite navigating well, if we're being honest. The financial numbers don't paint a pretty picture, and the once iconic brands under the Stellantis umbrella are struggling to stay afloat in a market that has passed them by. Let's break it down brand by brand and see what's gone wrong, shall we? First up, Chrysler. Poor Chrysler. It feels like they've been on life support for years now, and Stellantis just keeps yanking on the wires. The brand has 2 models. Yes, just 2. We've got the Pacifica minivan, which, admittedly, is a solid option for families. And then there's the Chrysler 300, but let's be real. How many people are actually clamoring for a sedan in 2024? The market is all about SUVs and crossovers these days, and Chrysler doesn't have anything even remotely competitive in those segments. Meanwhile, minivans as a category aren't exactly the buzziest vehicles. Honda and Toyota have that segment pretty much sewn up. So Chrysler's strategy of having a lineup consisting of, well, pretty much nothing, is not helping them. And let's talk pricing, because boy, they're dreaming if they think people are going to pay a premium for what they're offering. Chrysler's models are looking overpriced, which isn't exactly the kind of look that says, we want you to buy our cars. Stellantis hasn't put in the effort to bring in fresh ideas or investments, and it's almost like they're just waiting for Chrysler to quietly fade away. Without some serious innovation, it won't be long before Chrysler becomes nothing more than a name from the past. Next, we've got Ram. Oh, Ram. In a baffling move, they decided to discontinue the Ram 1500 Classic. Why? That truck was the affordable entry point into their lineup. And now that it's gone, the starting price for a new Ram 1500 is over $42,000. That's not exactly small change for the average consumer. And when you start looking at the higher-end models, the prices are approaching $90,000, or even more for the TRX. Seriously, Ram, who do you think is buying these things? They're pricing themselves right out of the market for anyone who doesn't want to spend the equivalent of a mortgage on a truck. Sure, Ram's trying to convince us that their new Hurricane engine is a game changer. Better efficiency, more power, yada yada. But honestly, who cares when the truck costs this much? Not everyone wants a truck with all the latest technology. Some folks just want a dependable workhorse. And Ram is leaving those buyers in the dust by pushing a luxury image that doesn't appeal to their core market. And guess what? If buyers don't see an option that fits their budget, they're not going to stick around just for the logo. They'll jump ship to Ford or Chevy, who are still keeping things affordable. And now we get to Jeep, the brand that prides itself on its rugged, adventurous spirit. Well, it looks like the only adventure here is in seeing how fast they can price people out of buying one. The Jeep Wrangler has always had a bit of a cult following, but even that die-hard fan base is starting to reconsider. The 2024 Wrangler Rubicon can run over $85,000. And that's before you start adding in any extras. Go ahead, throw in a few options, and you're looking at a 6-figure Wrangler. $100 grand for a Jeep? Really? Jeep's pricing is getting way out of hand. A Wrangler was supposed to be a symbol of freedom, of being able to go anywhere without breaking the bank. Now it feels like the only people who can afford that freedom are those with very deep pockets. And while we're here, let's just acknowledge the elephant in the room. Jeep isn't the only one making off-road vehicles anymore. Ford has come in strong with the Bronco, and Toyota's offerings are no joke either. Jeep used to have the off-road market practically all to itself, but now, with competition heating up, they need to do more than just slap a high-price tag on their vehicles and call it a day. So what's Stellantis doing about all this? Honestly, it doesn't seem like they're doing much of anything. Leadership appears to be either clueless or just plain indifferent to what consumers actually want. We're seeing rising costs, unsold inventory piling up at dealerships, and a shrinking customer base that's losing interest fast. There's a lot of talk, sure, but talk doesn't keep the lights on or the production lines running. Stellantis has a serious problem on its hands, and unless they can pull off some miracle revitalization effort, we're looking at a potential fall for these brands. Chrysler, Ram, and Jeep have all had their time in the spotlight, but if they keep this up, that spotlight is going to fade. Electric dreams turn sour. Let's talk about Dodge and its latest misstep, the Hornet. This compact SUV has been a flop, with over 500 days worth of inventory gathering dust on dealer lots. Consumers aren't interested, and it's not hard to see why. The compact SUV market is crowded with better options, and the Hornet doesn't offer anything special to stand out. Dodge's move toward electrification, like the upcoming Charger Daytona SRT, has also stirred up controversy. Many loyal Dodge fans love their muscle cars with roaring gas engines, and they're not thrilled about switching to electric. They're skeptical that an electric Charger can deliver the same excitement and performance as the old gas-powered models. The raw power, the sound, the feel, these are what made Dodge muscle cars iconic, and replacing them with electric motors risks alienating the very customers who have kept Dodge alive. Dealers are frustrated too. They're being asked to sell cars that people just aren't interested in buying. The disconnect between corporate strategy and consumer demand is glaring, and unless Dodge finds a way to bridge this gap, they're in for some tough times. The parent company behind Dodge and several other storied automotive brands is up against a formidable challenge as it struggles to stay relevant in a fast-changing market. Each of the brands under its umbrella, Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, and Ram, faces its own unique issues, yet they all share a troubling, overarching theme: an inability to connect in a meaningful way with today's consumers. A combination of outdated pricing strategies, narrow product lineup choices, and inconsistent leadership decisions has left the company increasingly out of sync with what modern car buyers are seeking. This widening disconnect is hitting hardest at the dealership level, where unsold inventory is piling up as potential customers turn elsewhere. At its core, the problem goes beyond individual brands or models. It's a systemic issue with the company's entire strategy. Consumers today are looking for vehicles that align with their evolving lifestyles and values, whether that means fuel-efficient or electric options, affordable pricing, or modern features. Other manufacturers have responded to these demands with focused, consumer-centered approaches, while this company appears stuck in a holding pattern, relying on past successes rather than adapting to new expectations. As a result, even once loyal customers are beginning to explore alternatives, leaving dealerships frustrated as they try to move products that no longer resonate. While Chrysler, Ram, Jeep, and Dodge each have rich histories and strong brand identities, heritage alone is not enough to secure their futures. The automotive industry is evolving at an unprecedented pace, with consumer preferences increasingly leaning toward electric and hybrid options, versatile SUVs, and affordable price points. To remain relevant, Stellantis must adapt to these changes quickly. If they fail to address the needs of a changing market, these once iconic brands risk becoming relics, symbols of an era that couldn't keep up with the demands of the present. Stellantis is caught between trying to maintain profitability and staying relevant in a market that is rapidly moving away from their current offerings. The core problem lies in the lack of a clear, consumer-focused strategy that acknowledges where the industry is headed and what customers actually want. The current approach is driving prices up while making their vehicles less appealing, and that's a recipe for disaster. Stellantis needs to invest in new technologies, expand their lineup to include more electric and hybrid options, and perhaps most importantly, reconnect with the people who buy their cars. Without that, they might just be steering straight towards a cliff. And when they go over, they might not come back. The numbers are out for the third quarter of 2024, and man, it's not looking pretty. They've been hit with a whopping 27% revenue drop. Their earnings nosedived from 45 billion euros down to 33 billion euros. Yikes. And what's to blame? Well, delays in getting new models out there and some serious issues with bloated inventories that they're scrambling to fix. The end result? A 20% plummet in global vehicle shipments. Let's dive a little deeper into what's been happening in North America, which is supposed to be Stellantis' golden goose, right? Well, things got even bleaker over here. Deliveries were down by a shocking 36%. Yeah, that's right. Over a third fewer cars made it to buyers. 171,000 fewer vehicles, to be exact. It's like they're trying to sell lemonade without any lemons. What went wrong? Too many unsold cars piling up in their lots and a total lack of those hot new models that make people want to open their wallets. They tried to cut back on inventory big time to fix this, like clearing out their lots as if they were getting ready for a giant yard sale. And sure, they managed to clear out some stock ahead of their November target. But even with all that hustle, Stellantis shares still took a serious hit, tanking by about 40% so far this year. Ouch, indeed. But wait, it's not just a North America problem. Europe's been a mess too. You'd think maybe they'd catch a break across the Atlantic, but nope. Deliveries in Europe dropped by 17%, and one of the big reasons? Delays with new car launches, especially those shiny electric models they've been promising. Remember that all-electric Citroën C3 they were hyping up? Yeah, well, it didn't hit the streets on time. And when people don't see the cool new electric ride you've been advertising, they tend to lose interest fast. It's like planning a huge party and then telling everyone the cake's gonna be late. People just start looking elsewhere. Faced with all these setbacks, Stellantis had to do something. And fast. So they've rolled out a big plan. About 20 new models are supposed to hit the market in 2024. Yep, 20. They're hoping these shiny new rides will bring back the buzz to their brands and drag people back into Stellantis showrooms. Not just that, they've also been shaking things up at the top. Doug Osterman has stepped in as the new chief financial officer, with the hope that some fresh leadership might help steer the company out of this mess. Fingers crossed, right? It's not all doom and gloom, though. Amidst the chaos, Stellantis did score a small win in the US. Somehow, they managed to increase their market share from 7% to 8%, and they're hoping to get to 10% by the end of the year. It's not much, but hey, it's something. Maybe all those discount deals and special offers are starting to pay off. Or maybe it's just that they've been a little luckier in certain segments. Either way, they're going to hold on to that sliver of hope, like it's a lifeline. Still, the road ahead is anything but easy. There's a lot of trouble brewing that could make things even worse. For starters, there's talk of labor unrest that's just not going away.
The dealer body, and evidently the UAW as well, believes we're on a bad track that was all self-inflicted.
Stellantis has basically collapsed. We're not talking about free cash flows, we're not talking about law.
Yeah, you guessed it. The United Auto Workers, UAW union, is not too thrilled with Stellantis right now. They're unhappy about delays in reopening plants, and there's a real risk of strikes breaking out. That's the last thing Stellantis needs while they're already struggling to keep up. Imagine trying to climb out of a hole while someone's threatening to knock you right back in. Not a good situation. And if that wasn't enough, there's pressure coming from Italy too. Italian lawmakers aren't exactly pleased with Stellantis for cutting production in their country. There's a lot of political heat on them, and it's adding another layer of stress to an already complicated picture. It's a tough balancing act. They've got to keep their shareholders happy. They've got to deal with angry workers, and they've got to appease the politicians who want to keep jobs in their regions. It's a bit like trying to juggle flaming torches while riding a unicycle. One wrong move, and it could all come crashing down. So, what exactly are these new models they're banking on? Well, Stellantis is pulling out all the stops, trying to breathe some new life into their brands. We're talking about brand new versions of some old favorites, as well as introducing entirely new models that they hope will catch people's attention. They've hinted at revamps for the Dodge Charger and the Jeep Cherokee. models that have always had a solid fan base. But beyond that, they're also diving headfirst into electric vehicles. The automotive industry is shifting towards EVs in a big way, and Stellantis knows they've got to catch that wave or risk being left behind. They've been teasing a fully electric Ram pickup and a new line of electric Jeep SUVs that could just be the ticket to turn things around. But let's be real. There's a lot riding on these new launches. If they flop, it's going to be a tough road ahead. And speaking of tough roads, the competition isn't exactly standing still while Stellantis is trying to sort itself out. Companies like Tesla, Ford, and GM are all pushing hard into the EV market, and they're doing it with some pretty impressive offerings. Tesla's already got a massive head start, and Ford's been making waves with its F-150 Lightning electric pickup. GM's got a whole lineup of EVs coming, and it's clear that Stellantis is going to have to bring their A-game if they want to compete. It's not just about having electric vehicles. It's about having electric vehicles that people actually want to buy. They need to be stylish, they need to have great range, and they need to be priced right. That's a tall order, especially when you're already struggling to get new models out on time. The other thing Stellantis has got to figure out is how to make their production lines more efficient. Right now, it seems like they're constantly behind schedule. The delays with the all-electric Citroën C3 were just one example, but it's not an isolated case. They've got to streamline their operations if they want to stay competitive. That means investing in new technologies, improving their supply chain, and maybe even making some tough calls about which plants to keep open and which ones to close. It's not going to be easy, and there are a lot of stakeholders who are going to have opinions about how they should move forward. Then there's the whole issue of consumer confidence. Right now, it's shaky at best. When people see a company struggling like Stellantis is, they start to wonder if it's a good idea to buy from them. Are they going to be around to honor warranties? Are they going to keep making parts for the cars they're selling now? These are real concerns that potential buyers have, and Stellantis needs to find a way to reassure them. They need to show that they're stable, that they've got a plan, and that they're not going anywhere. Easier said than done, right? With Stellantis spiraling and dealerships drowning, is it time to say goodbye to these iconic brands for good? Let us know your thoughts. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and join the discussion.